everybody. Kent Stone's a Fake Nut. If you've been following along, you know that we have been talking about trust. And we've covered the continuum of trust from very functional to very emotional. We've talked about the theoretical underpinnings of trust based on, we believe that trust is a function of the user's perception of competence, integrity, and benevolence. And last week we were talking about trust as a cultural system. We talked about what systems are, how cultural systems are an extension of that, and in particular we were talking about different elements within a system and how they're interrelated and interact with each other to create a more complex whole. So that's what gets to be important for us, is if we're thinking about a cultural system of trust, then what are those elements that we need to consider? So as good branding professionals, we always start with the consumer. So if we think about looking at that end user, there's a couple of distinct areas that we can look at in terms of their values. What is the belief system that they have? How did it come to be? Who's influenced it? Who taught them? A second area is their professional culture. We often tend to think of professional and personal lives as separate, but they're not. Everything that we do in our lives influences us in some way, shape, or form. And so we tend to look at a personal and professional life as simply a mix for an individual. The third area is the relationships that people have, and whether they're family, by marriage, by group association, or what have you, we take a look at all the relationships that people have and how those influence who they are. And lastly, probably the funnest area for me, is looking at identity. And with identity, we explore who we think we are, how we think other people see us, and how we want other people to see us. So these are all really powerful ways that we can understand and develop a very rich understanding of the people who actually end up using our brand. So as we talked about though, that's only part of the whole system. There's another whole side, and that is the organization that actually creates the brand. And an organization, we can break it down into a couple of key constituencies. There's the employees, there's the managers that run the company and execute on the decisions that are made by the owners. And the owners are the ones that ultimately decide where the resources are allocated in the company. Now there's a relationship and interaction between those different elements. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But you start to see how all those decisions, all those interactions actually start to manifest themselves in the brand. And the brand is the ultimate expression of that organization to the end user. So this is where we're going to start spending more time in subsequent streams, where we're going to talk about, we'll dig into with the consumer a little bit more in depth on each one of those four areas, how we go about it, what are ways that you can understand and approach gathering data or observe on those areas to develop the knowledge that you need. And then we're going to also look at, with organizations, how can you actually start to go in and assess an organization in a way that you understand the impact of all of those things in an organization and how they're manifesting themselves in the brand and ultimately influencing the level of trust that a consumer has for that organization. So